How's it going, everybody? So, we're back for another edition of All In. So, what I'll do is I'll pick an artist and I'll listen to their entire discography. And the rules kind of go like this. The artist in question must have 5 or more original studio albums. Cover albums can count. I generally don't discuss live albums or acoustic albums unless the tracks are to the original form. So, here we go. And if you watched last week's episode, I think you know where we're going with this one. Or in case you read the title of your screen. So we're going to talk about Ozzy Osbourne again. This time covering strictly his solo career. So, total, when you figure in Black Sabbath and his solo career, he has spanned from the self-titled Black Sabbath album in 1970 all the way to Patient Number 9 in 2022. Now, as a solo artist, he had a total of 13 albums, which started off in 1980 with Blizzard of Oz going all the way to Patient Number 9 in 2022. So, yeah, he covered, over half a century in the rock world. You know, so many different eras of rock. So, how I got into Ozzy? I mean, I heard Ozzy as a solo artist before I ever heard Black Sabbath. So, I don't remember the first time I ever heard Ozzy, but I guess it was just... I've always heard his stuff being played on the radio over the years. But the first album I remember being current was probably, I would say, No More Tears. Because that album had a lot of hits to it. It was all over the place. But yeah, so we'll start off here. So... we start off with Blizzard of Oz in 1980, right here. So after he's kicked out of Black Sabbath for too much drugs and alcohol, Ronnie James Dio replaces him over there. So then Ozzy goes off on his own and made a hell of a debut. So here we have I Don't Know, Crazy Train, really popular song, Goodbye to Romance, which I would call a ballad. You got D, and then you got... am I allowed to say this on YouTube? Suicide Solution. Of course, that was a very controversial song. You got Mr. Crawley, No Bone Movies, Revolution Mother Earth, and Steal Away the Night. And then this has a bonus track, You Look at Me, Looking at You. This is like the early 2000s remaster version of it. So, you know, you get the full album art on the front, back of the cover. But yeah, legendary album. So then... the very next year, 1981, yeah, this is kind of cool. It's like a triple set here that I got. I bought this probably, it would have been like late 90s, I would say. But sort of like a value set. But we'll start off with Diary of a Madman. Of course, in the 90s, you kind of got this weird frame with Ozzy Osbourne alongside of the actual cover. But here you get Over the Mountain, really good track. Flying High Again, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, Believer, Little Dolls, Tonight, Sato, and the title track, Diary of a Madman. And yeah, I would say definitely a good follow-up to the first album for sure. Can't deny Ozzy, you know. And then moving on, we have 1983's Bark at the Moon. Great song, by the way. So, of course, we start off with the title track, Bark at the Moon. We have You're No Different, Now You See It, Now You Don't. Rock and Roll Rebel, not bad. Center of Eternity, So Tired, Slow Down, and Waiting for Darkness. I mean, all in all, not bad albums. And then, of course, you get some bonus tracks here. I like One Up the B-side. I mean, how is that not an album track? Like, seriously. I love that song. So then, moving on. 1986, we got The Ultimate Sin. Now, I love how that song starts off. It goes... dun, 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 dun. Kind of starts off like... I like that. So here we start off with the title track, Ultimate Sin. We got Secret Loser, Never Know Why, Thank God for the Bomb, Never, Lightning Straits, Killer of the Giants, Fool Like You, and we end with probably the most popular track of them all, Shot in the Dark. Yeah, really good threesome there. So then, staying in the 80s, we have No Rest for the Wicked. Now, many people would call this, like, the worst album they did in the 80s. But, honestly, I beg to differ on that. And maybe more so for nostalgic reasons. I remember my dad had this one on cassette tape and played it in heavy rotation. Though there weren't really, like, any big hits off of it, it was still pretty damn good. Like, I never got sick of it. So here we start off with Miracle Man, we have Devil's Daughter, we have Crazy Babies, which I'd say is probably the most popular track from it, but not really mainstream popular. You got Breaking All the Rules, Bloodbath in Paradise, Fire in the Sky, Type 2 Dancer, Demon Alcohol, and Hero. And then, if you got the bonus version of it, you get a song called The Liar, which is kind of like a slow song. But yeah, damn good album. Real hard, real heavy. Love it. So then we move on after the turn of the decade. We have 1991's No More Tears. And I honestly want to say this is probably their most commercially successful album. And just 1991 as a year was a damn good year for rock music. But anyhow, we have Mr. Tinkertrain. We have I Don't Want to Change the World, which I knew that one more from the Ozman Cometh album. It was like a live version they included on that compilation, which I believe was originally from Live and Loud. But yeah, I like both versions of it. You have Mama, I'm Coming Home, definitely a big ballad from this. You have Desire, the title track, No More Tears, love it. I'm going to say arguably my favorite Ozzy song of all time right there. Just down to the solos and the effects, just everything about that track. I love it. Then you have the song Sin, and you have Hellraiser, which I don't really remember that song being popular until I played GTA. I think it was on, it was either Vice City or San Andreas that song was on like one of the radio stations on that game. You have Time After Time, definitely a popular track. You got Zombie Stomp, AVH, and another ballad, Road to Nowhere. Great track. And then the bonus tracks were awesome too. So you have Don't Blame Me and Party with the Animals. But yeah, damn good album. And I'm going to say it already, definitely my favorite from the whole entire catalog. Yeah, spoiler alert, I know. So then moving on, we get into the mid-90s now. So here at this point in time, we're kind of in the peak of grunge. Meanwhile, bands like Ozzy and Metallica are still making themselves known. So I remember my grade school buddy Derek getting this album, and it has a lot of good cuts to it. So we start off with the headlining track, Perry Mason. I would say the breakout track to this album. Love that song. We got I Just Want You, which was another single. We got Ghost Behind My Eyes, Thunder Underground, which that one's real heavy. Got See You on the Other Side, which is very popular. We have Tomorrow, Denial, My Little Man, My Jackal Doesn't Hide, Old LA Tonight. And then if you go bonus tracks, we have Whole World's Falling Down and Amy. And given like the time frame of when this came out, it really stood out, I think. I mean, definitely a damn good hit album, I think. Yep, good old Osmosis. So here we have... So the solo career takes a little bit of a break, and then they release Ozman Cometh in 1997, which I think I have it here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, so here they actually did a new studio track off of this called Back on Earth. And that's like really the only new single they did. But this also includes like 4 demo cuts from the Black Sabbath days too, which was pretty cool. So you get like a demo version of Black Sabbath, and I think Fairies Wear Boots is on here. It's like a bonus disc. It's like a, you know, like a limited edition type of deal here. So then we enter the millennium. We get into 2000s with Down to Earth. And here at this point, we're in the midst of nu metal. Yeah, crazy, I know. So Ozzy has proven to survive like just about all the eras of rock that we know. So here we have Gets Me Through. Great tune. We have Facing Hell, then we have the ballad Dreamer. That was real popular. Got No Easy Way Out, That I Never Had, You Know Part 1. We got Junkie. Running Out of Time, Black Illusion, Alive, Can You Hear From Them? And then if you get like the bonus tracks, you get No Place for Angels. And here again, doesn't matter the time frame, another good solid album from this guy. Love it. So, and I did say in the rules we do talk about cover albums, so here we move on to 2005. He does an album called Undercover, which obviously is cover tracks. So what we get here is Rocky Mountain Way, which was Joe Walsh. We have In My Life, which was the Beatles. We have Mississippi Queen, which was Mountain. Go Now by Bessie Banks. Woman by John Lennon. 21st Century Schizoid Man by King Crimson. All the Young Dudes by Moat the People. Of course, David Bowie wrote it. For What It's Worth by Stephen Mills and Buffalo Springfield. Good Times, The Animals. Submarine of Your Love. Yeah, Sunshine of Your Love, Queen. Boy, did I fuck that up. Sunshine of Your Love by Cream, not Queen. Big difference. So then you have Fire by Arthur Brown. No, not Jimi Hendrix. You have Working Class Hero by John Lennon, which Green Day also did a cover of that too. Then you have Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones, which, here again, GNR covered that one in their cover album. And then, if you go bonus tracks, you have Ozzy redoing Changes with Kelly Osbourne, his daughter. And I remember this was in around the time. This was like right after Kelly tried to get her career off the ground. She had her own album and everything. And this was after like after the popular show The Osbournes, after, you know, they got turned into reality stars and whatnot. But I mean, I wasn't really big on his covers, honestly. I did like Sympathy for the Devil. I thought that was a good cover. Mississippi Queen, not bad. And then, you know, All the Young Dudes, I like that one too. But like most of the other covers, I was like, meh, not really big on them. But all in all, not bad. So then we go to 2007. We have Black Rain. And I do have a physical of that one too. Another special edition. It comes with additional tracks and live cuts. I think this was like the '08 release version of it, even though it came out in '07. So, what do we got? We have Not Going Away, and damn right, he hasn't gone away. We have I Don't Want to Stop, which I believe was a breakout track to this. Then you have the title track, Black Rain. Then you have Lay Your Word on Me, The Almighty Dollar, 11 Silver, Civilized Universe, Here For You, Countdown's Begun, and Trapdoor. And then, moving on to the second disc, of course we have some live tracks. Studio tracks, we have Nightmare, I Can't Save You, and Love to Hate. And it's Ozzy, what more do you want? It's good stuff. Not a bad album. So, as if that's not enough, 2010 rolls around. We go into the 10s. He releases Scream. And so here we start off with Let It Die. We have Let Me Hear You Scream, which was the breakout track to this. Soul Sucker, Life Won't Wait, Digging Me Down, Crucify, Fearless, Time, I Want It More. That's what she said. Latimer's Mercy, and I Love You All, which that's what he always says when he ends a show. So here again, another good solid album by him, and this is where the solo albums kind of take a break. So this is in the time when, for the final time around, he got back with Black Sabbath to do the End tour. They recorded the album 13 in 2013 and then did a tour. So this is why there was kind of a long gap between Scream and the next album. There was like a 10-year gap. So he was busy with Sabbath in that time, and then once Sabbath did their supposed last show, then I guess he got to work on the next album, Ordinary Man, which that came out in 2020. So we start off with Straight to Hell, All My Life, Goodbye. We have Ordinary Man, which features Elton John, and that's what I'm noticing with these later albums. He's been bringing in like special guests, and him and Elton John. I mean, it was actually a good combo for that track. I liked it. Sort of a ballad type track. We have Under the Graveyard, Eat Me, Today Is the End, Scary Little Green Man, Holy for Tonight, and then I'm not too fond of this. So you have It's a Raid featuring Post Malone, and I'm not really a fan of Post Malone. So I really didn't like that track anyway. You have Take What You Want, of course, another Post Malone. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of his. So I feel like this album was good up until them last two tracks. Take off them last two tracks, you'd have a damn good album. So yeah, just not a Post Malone fan. I'm sorry, but I mean, you can't fault Ozzy for trying something a little different there after how many years in the biz. At this point, what? At this point, it's 2020, so yeah, 50 years worth of albums. So then we keep going. So in 2022, just 3 years ago, we get Patient Number 9, and boy, was I impressed with this album, especially for like a later in career release. He brought in special guests in just about every track on this, and it worked. So you start off with the title track, Patient Number 9 with Jeff Beck, Immortal with Mike McCreely. You got Parasite with Zakk Wylde. And then we have No Escape From Now featuring Tony Iommi. Of course, you start to get like a little bit of Sabbath vibe there, being it's Tony Iommi. One of Those Days featuring Eric Clapton. Damn, that was a good track. Like, him and Clapton together on that track was just awesome. I never thought like Ozzy and Clapton together would sound so awesome in this track, but love it. You have A Thousand Shades featuring Jeff Beck. You have Mr. Darkness with Zakk Wylde. Nothing Feels Right, Zakk Wylde. Evil Shuffle, also Zakk Wylde. And then Degradation Rules with Tony Iommi. And here, I really get Sabbath vibes off of this, because you get that harmonica like you hear on The Wizard. Yeah, it's sort of a nod to the old days there. I like it. Then you have Dead and Gone, Only God Knows, and Dark Side Blues. Now, the last three tracks were just strictly him, but Dead and Gone, definitely a damn good track. So, you thought we were done, didn't you? Nope. So he just last year in 2024, he releases a one-off single called Crack Cocaine with Billy Morrison, and it's not a bad single. I like it. But yeah, what a hell of a career he's had. But I mean, if Ozzy doesn't record any more albums beyond this point, I feel like Patient Number 9 was definitely like out on top in my opinion. Probably, I would say it was my favorite album of his at recent times, for sure. So, okay, so I gotta rank them here, and I don't know how I'm gonna split this up. Let's see. I think I'm gonna do 80s, early 90s Ozzy as one part, And then the second part's going to be mid-90s to current. So as far as 80s, early 90s Ozzy, at the very top, No More Tears. Loved it. No Rest for the Wicked. A close second, more for like nostalgic reasons, I guess. And then I would say, I don't know, my least favorite, not that I hate it, would be Diary of a Madman. So, moving on to the latter half of Ozzy, from like the mid-90s to now. I almost feel like, I liked Osmosis. Honestly, I did. Great album. You know, and like, even though grunge was popular, like, he still made himself known, you know. So, yeah, Osmosis at the top. Patient number 9, surprisingly a very close second. My least favorite, Damn You Post Malone, Ordinary Man. So that's my rankings for mid-90s to now Ozzy. And I gotta give honorable mentions to some other albums that feature him. So, not an actual album, but a greatest hits compilation. Lita Ford, for her and Ozzy doing Close My Eyes Forever. Damn good tune. Great duet, if you call it a duet in the metal world. So that was in 1987. And then you have Black Label Society with Stillborn, Zakk Wylde, which he used to play for Ozzy, and then he ended up forming his own band, and then he came back and did some special guest tracks on Patient number 9. But yeah, damn good track. I gotta give honorable mention to the band Cold Chamber for their version of Shock the Monkey, which featured Ozzy Osbourne. You know, this back in 99, if I didn't already mention it. And then I also gotta mention Rob Zombie's The Sinister Urge for their song Ironhead, which had Ozzy as a guest vocalist on this. So, yeah, Ozzy definitely made a lot of guest appearances too, aside from his work with Sabbath and his work in his solo career. He was a busy man. So, any experiences I had seeing him live? Why, yes, I did. If you can see the shirt, I got to attend Ozfest 2000 at Nissan Pavilion down in Virginia, and I'll never forget it. Like, I got the tickets for this show through a friend of mine who got them as a graduation gift, and I was invited to go along down there. But anyway, I remember like whenever they were doing the intro before he got on stage, they were doing like an American Pie parody of like him having relations with the pie, and it showed like a fake dick coming out the bottom of the pie pan. Everyone was just laughing their asses off. It was hilarious. But man, what an awesome show he put on. And I remember like at the very end, I think they were playing like War Pigs or something. They were playing one of like the old Sabbath classics there at the end, and then it just started storming like hell outside. And, like, they told everybody to take cover, and it's like, we don't give a shit, Ozzy's on stage. And I remember, like, whenever Ozzy finally finished his set, like, me and my buddy, like, ran to the car all sick and wet, but we were young, we didn't give a shit, you know, we had a good time. That's one other thing I want to talk about with Ozzy, like, it wasn't just it wasn't just his music career that he was focused on. Ozfest was more about, like, getting, you know, like, newer metal bands exposed, which he did very well. Like, I feel like he influenced, you know, like the new metal era in a way, because most of the stage lineups you saw at Ozfest in that time was new metal bands that were just trying to get their name out there. So he really helped in promoting many other good bands that are out there today that wouldn't be there if it weren't for him. And I'm sure I've done some all-ins with some of them, and I'll do some more all-ins with them here soon. But, like, I'm going to give you an example. So it's summer of 2000, I got to see, like, Disturbed only had one album out at the time, and Stupefy had just hit the airwaves. They were only on second stage the first time I saw them at this concert. It's crazy. And then like the very next year, like after that song blew up all over the radio, they had a main stage. But you know, it's stories like that where you know Ozzy was a big influence in getting bands like Disturbed out there. And of course, you know, Godsmack was on. Yeah, Pantera was the other big band that was on before them. But Godsmack, they were on main stage, but they only had one album at the time, getting ready to put out their second album. And look at them now. Even Static X, they were only one album in whenever they were on that stage. And now, you know, rest in peace Wayne Static. But now it's like they have like 8 studio albums, so they really helped a lot of other bands that were like years behind him. Like Ozzy was ahead of his time, I think. But yeah, you got to thank him for like Ozfest, you know, festivals like that. And then we can't go without this episode without mentioning his reality TV career. You know, the Osbournes. And, you know, I wasn't really as big into the show as I was into his musical talents, you know? But it was funny, though, when he gets, like, all pissed and starts cursing at the dogs for shitting on the floor. Who the fuck pissed on my carpet? Oh, it's funny. So, yeah, that was my experience with them live. And so coming up in July, in the town of Birmingham, England, where Black Sabbath started, they're going to do one final show, and then that's it. Ozzy's calling it quits. And it's going to be a very epic lineup. So basically, Ozzy's going to do a small solo set, and then the original Black Sabbath, for one time only, is going to get with him to do the final Sabbath set. And also the lineup's going to consist of, like, Slayer, Metallica, just to name a couple. Boy, I'd love to go to that show, but that would require an international trip to do that. But yeah, this show is supposedly going to happen literally blocks down the road from where the original Black Sabbath started. So, kind of like full circle for him. But yeah, I would arguably say he's like the godfather of heavy metal. Like, he started it. And without him, we wouldn't have so much good rock today and good metal. So, yeah. Yeah, that was a hell of a long vid here. But, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this edition of All In. And so, one of the bands that I just mentioned in this episode is going to be featured next. So, we'll see you later.